In 1931, central China faced the deadliest flood in history.
1 million people have lost their homes, 100,000 their lives.
Heavy rains, 7 cyclones swelled the Yangtze and Huai rivers until they spilled over, flooding an area larger than many countries, including the cities of Wuhan and Nanjing. Up to 3.7 million people died, and about 150,000 were swept away in the waters, and millions more died from hunger and cholera when crops were destroyed and disease spread. Decades of deforestation and poorly maintained dams made the disaster even worse. A powerful warning: what happens when we ignore our environment. The world is warming faster than at any point in the recorded history. This is radically changing the Earth's climate and releasing a wave of extreme weather, including wildfires, hurricanes, floods, and droughts. Air pollution, water pollution, and lead exposure causing millions and millions of deaths every year. In Africa, 71% of the population does not have access to basic sanitation. 58% of the population does not have access to clean drinking water. And not just in Africa, the pictures are same in many countries in the world. In 2021, 8.1 million people died because of air pollution. China, India, and Bangladesh were top 3 countries with the largest number of deaths and deaths in 2019 because of lead exposure, an exposure that has no safe limit, especially for the children. That same year, 1.4 million deaths from diarrhea disease were linked to unsafe water, sanitation, and hygiene, primarily in low and middle-income countries. We are living in a constant threat of polluted oceans, disappearing forests, and a warming climate. That's why on every June 5th, World Environment Day, people around the globe come together to protect and restore nature. In this video, we'll look back at the lush rivers and forests that once thrived. See what's at risk now, from plastic-clogged waterways to cities eating up green space. Share simple solutions like planting trees, switching to renewable energy, and cutting waste. The 1931 flood shows us how neglect can turn into catastrophe. But it also teaches us that united action can rebuild hope. By choosing sustainable products, supporting clean energy projects, and raising awareness, each of us can help heal the planet. Together, we can ensure clean air, stable climates, and healthy ecosystems, so future generations inherit a world where people and nature flourish side by side.
Climate change is the most fundamental and existential threat to our species. Droughts are intensifying, our oceans are acidifying, with methane plumes rising up from the ocean floor. We are seeing extreme weather events and the West Antarctic and Greenland ice sheets melting at unprecedented rates, decades ahead of scientific projections.
Long ago, nature lived in balance. Mighty forests covered 60% of our land and gave us fresh, clean air to breathe. The Amazon's 390 billion trees produced 1/5 of the world's oxygen. The Great Barrier Reef, home to 1,500 fish species, sparkled under clear waters. Rivers like the Ganges ran pure, supporting countless communities. Arctic ice stretched far and polar bears roamed freely. People respected this balance. They farmed in ways that kept soil healthy. Mesopotamian farmers protected their crops, and the Maya built terraces to stop erosion. Indigenous groups cared for the land. Botswana's sun hunted only what they need. New Zealand's Maori treated rivers like living relatives. Back then, low carbon in the air and steady sea levels kept the climates stable. Wildlife thrived, seasons stayed reliable, and ecosystems bounced back from storms or droughts. This was a world where humans and nature helped each other succeed. Today's challenges, pollution, deforestation, and climate change remind us how far we have drifted from that harmony. But the past also shows us what's possible. The Amazon's oxygen, the reef's colorful life, the Ganges' clear flow, they all point to a time when Earth flourished. If we learn from those early stewards of the land, we can rebuild that balance. By protecting forests, farming smarter, and respecting nature's cycles, we can restore a healthy planet for ourselves and generations to come. In 70s and 80s, the Industrial Revolution changed everything. Factories burning coal sent carbon dioxide up 10% by 1900. The air got warmer. Cutting timber to feed growing towns cleared 1/5 of North America's forests, pushing animals from their homes. Rivers like London's Thames, America's Cuyahoga turned into open sewers, so polluted that Cuyahoga actually caught fire in 1969. Cities spread over 40% of wetlands, wiping out vital stops for migrating birds. Even so, nature was still strong. In the early 90s, most ocean species thrived. Extinctions were rare and the climate stayed fairly steady. Whales swam the side seas, the forests still blanketed half the land. That resilience shows us recovery is possible, even after heavy damage. The industrial age taught us that technology can either hurt or help the planet. Factories powered progress, but also fooled rivers and leveled forests. Imagine a world where smoke chokes the skies, rivers catch fire from pollution, and forests vanish overnight. That was the wake-up call the planet faced in the late 1960s and early 70s. And that's when the world decided enough is enough. In the 1960s and early 70s, the planet was in real trouble. Oil spills were destroying the marine life. Factories polluted rivers with no limits, and in 1969, Cuyahoga River fire in the US. All these disasters pushed the government and scientists to act fast. So, in 1972, the United Nations held the first big global conference on the environment called the Stockholm Conference. The idea was driven by Swedish Prime Minister Olof Palme and Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, and other global leaders who warned that if nature die, we die.
I saw houses blown away.
Had to roll up towels, put them under windows and doors.
Many people died. Our farms were destroyed.
Ice kept melting.
Summers are really hot.
All the memories that were made in that place are slowly disappearing.
Today, our planet is under serious stress of pollution. Tiny particles in the air, along with gases like nitrogen oxides and ozone, are making people sick. They cause asthma, chronic lung problems, lung cancer, and more other infections. Here are the world's top 10 cleanest major cities as of 2025. Now, here are the top 10 most polluted cities in the world as of 2025. PM 2.5 or particulate matter refers to tiny airborne particles with a diameter of 2.5 micrometers or less, about 30 times smaller than a human hair. Because they are so small, PM 2.5 can penetrate deep into your lungs, carry toxic chemicals, stay suspended in the air for hours to days. Breathing the dirty air raises risks for asthma, lung disease, and cancer. Plastic waste, a warming climate, and vanishing wildlife are also hurting our planet. The IPCC projects 2 degrees Celsius warming by 2030 to 2050, potentially 3 to 5 degrees Celsius by 2100, rendering equatorial regions nearly inhabitable by 2070 due to extreme heat and drought. If things continue like this, the world will be inhabitable by the next century. So, to prevent that, every year, nations from all around the world join together to discuss how to battle the climate change under Paris Agreement, an event also known as COP. The Paris Agreement is a global deal to fight climate change. It was agreed in 2016 and focuses on 3 big deals: cutting greenhouse gas emissions, preparing for climate impacts, and funding clean energy projects. Nearly every country on Earth joined in. 196 nations negotiated the deal at the 2015 UN. So far, only 3 UN members haven't ratified it yet: Iran, Libya, and Yemen. The US left the agreement in 2020.
The United States will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord. This agreement is less about the climate and more about other countries gaining a financial advantage over the United States.
The United States formally entered the Paris Agreement during the Obama administration in 2016. President Trump withdrew from it during his first term. President Biden rejoined it in 2021.
COP29 refers to the 29th Conference of the Parties. to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, held November 2024 in Baku, Azerbaijan. Nearly 200 nations met to negotiate steps under the Paris Agreement, also to agree new climate financial goals. In the conference, rich countries have decided to provide $300 billion per year by 2035.
Rich countries have agreed to pool together at least $300 billion a year by 2035. It's not near the full amount of $1.3 trillion that developing countries were asking for and that experts say was needed.
About 1 in 8 deaths now attributed to air pollution globally. In 2021, 8.1 million people died because of air pollution. According to WHO, air pollution is responsible for 14% of the childhood asthma, 43% of COPD deaths, and 29% of lung cancer deaths worldwide in 2022. Around 2.4 billion people cook and heat their homes with polluting fuels, and every year 3.2 million people die prematurely from household air pollution. Ambient or outdoor air pollution is estimated to have caused 4.2 million premature deaths worldwide in 2019. In 2021, air pollution accounted for 48% of global deaths from COPD, 28% from ischemic heart disease, 27% from stroke, 19% from lung cancer, and 18% from type 2 diabetes. Sounds crazy, right? But here is more just from air pollution, and we also need to talk about water pollution. In 2012, 2.2 million deaths annually in Africa region, 847,000 in the region of Americas, 854,000 in the Eastern Mediterranean region, 1.4 million in European region, 3.8 million in Southeast Asia region, and 3.5 million deaths annually in Western Pacific region, most attributable to indoor and outdoor air pollution. Now, this is a graph showing global distribution of childhood lead exposure in 2019. Lead is a naturally occurring toxic metal found in Earth's crust. Childhood lead exposure refers to a child's ingestion, inhalation, or absorption of lead, which can cause serious health problems, particularly in young children whose bodies are still developing. About 1 million people die every year due to lead poisoning, with more children suffering long-term health effects. Homes built before 1978 often have lead-based paint, which can flake off and create lead dust which children can ingest. Soil near older buildings, busy roads, or industrial areas may contain lead. Lead pipes and plumbing fixtures can leach lead into drinking water. Some toys, jewelry, and imported goods may contain lead as well. Say no to lead poisoning, the theme of the 10th International Lead Poisoning Prevention Week, to raise awareness about lead poisoning and encourages all countries to take action to prevent lead exposure, particularly in children. And we're not stopping there. Water pollution from untreated sewage, agricultural runoff, and flooding spreads pathogens causing diarrhea disease, including cholera. These were catastrophes in the events like the 1931 China flood. In 2019, 1.4 million deaths from diarrhea disease were linked to unsafe water, sanitation, and hygiene, primarily in low and middle-income countries. An estimated 829,000 wash-attributable deaths and 49.8 million deaths from diarrhea disease in 2016. This is a graph showing the burden of diarrhea disease between 2000 and 2019. Between 1980 and 2015, 780,000 people have died because of unsafe water. Globally, at least 1.8 billion people use a drinking water source contaminated with feces. Every year, we dump about 19 to 23 millions of tons of plastic into rivers and oceans, enough to fill nearly 8 Olympic swimming pools every minute.
Warming waters, acidification, plastic pollution, methane release, drilling, overfishing, and the destruction of marine ecosystems like coral reefs are pushing our oceans to the very brink.
Tiny microplastics now turn up in fish, we eat, and even in our bodies. Meanwhile, Earth is heating up. October 2024 was a record 1.13 degrees Celsius hotter than normal, fueling more wildfires and dangerous smoke in our air.
All 29 fire departments in our county are not prepared for this type of widespread disaster.
Nature is under siege. 1 million species teeter on the brink of extinction. Forests are disappearing, threatening animals and people who depend on them. Rising seas are eroding coastlines, forcing millions from their homes. Polluted air, plastic clogged waters, and a warming world are choking our planet and our health. It's a wake-up call, and we must need to act now to clean up our air, stop plastic waste, and slow down the climate change. According to EPI, Vietnam has the most polluted, where Estonia has the healthiest environment in the world. The Environmental Performance Index is a global ranking of how well countries protect human health and ecosystems. It was developed by Yale University and Columbia University in 2002 in partnership with the World Economic Forum, a data-driven approach from 0 to 100 that evaluates 180 countries' environmental health based on air quality, water sanitation, and heavy metals. It's no secret that we have done so much damage on our environment so far, but that does not mean that we cannot be optimistic. Humanity can still avoid the worst impacts of the climate crisis if we follow the roadmap to a low-carbon resilient future. By the decade 2006 to 2015, human activity had warmed the world by 0.87 degrees Celsius compared to pre-industrial times. If the current warming rate continues, the world would reach human-induced global warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius around 2040. The only way to avoid catastrophic climate change is to rapidly slash our emissions of planet-warming greenhouse gases, including carbon dioxide and methane. To keep the 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature target alive, the world needs to cut 42% emissions by 2030. A little math tells us that to reach that target, we need to reduce our annual emissions by 22 gigatons or 22 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. That might seem a lot, but by focusing on the key sectors, we can get there. In agricultural sector, we need to remove or redirect subsidies that encourage excessive consumption of fertilizers, water, or energy in food production. Agriculture, forestry, and other land uses are responsible for about 22% of greenhouse gas emissions and has an emission reduction potential of 13.6 gigatons annually. The world can reduce emission by 7.3 gigatons if we halt deforestation, ecosystem degradation, and restore ecosystems. 23 global companies including Nestle, McDonald's, Tesco, and Unilever recently signed a commitment to halt deforestation in Brazil's Cerrado Savannah. These actions would also improve air quality, bolster food and water security, and shore up rural economies. As well, they could be key contributors to reduce biodiversity loss. Reforestation is another important natural solution. Globally, an estimated 2 billion hectares or 4.9 billion acres of land has been deforested or degraded. Because trees are the best carbon capture and storage technology the world has. Reversing these numbers would bring a significant reduction in global carbon levels. We estimate that the world could capture 3 gigatons of carbon dioxide annually, equivalent to taking more than 600 million cars off the roads simply just by planting more trees. Simple steps like LED bulbs, better insulation, and efficient appliances reduce electricity waste. The EU aims to cut net emissions 55% below 1990 levels by 2030, largely through efficiency gains. The largest single source of greenhouse gas emissions, churning out 20 gigaton of carbon dioxide per year. By increasing renewable energy capacity and improving energy efficiency rate, we can cut 12.6 gigatons of emissions annually, which is equivalent to 7 billion cars off the road. Greenhouse emission from industry sector in 2019 has reached 14.1 gigaton or 25% of the total emissions. This sector has potential reduced amount of 5.4 gigaton. By embracing new fuels, develop innovation in high emission sectors like steel, cement, aluminium, and decarbonizing oil and gas through methane abatement and carbon management technologies. Transportation is responsible for 15% of the global total emissions. By switching to electric vehicles, better public transport, bike-friendly, and better designing cities so that citizens require less travel, we could reduce this emission by 3.8 gigatons. While thinking about better design and zero carbon emission city, Take a look at NEOM, Saudi Arabia's trillion-dollar futuristic city. Buildings and constructions are responsible for 34% of global energy demand and 37% of carbon dioxide emissions. The reduction potential in building is 0.7 gigatons for direct emissions and 2 gigatons for direct and indirect emissions such as electricity and heat. According to IPCC, the building sector mitigation policies can reduce greenhouse gas emission by up to 90% in the developed countries and up to 80% in the developing countries, and help lift up to 2.8 billion people in the developing countries out of energy poverty. To decrease emissions in the building sector, we must minimize excess floor space, reduce energy intensity of buildings, and decrease emissions from constructions, especially embodied carbon. We consume more meat than we think we do. This chart shows the average consumption of meat per person around the world over the years. Raising cows, sheep, and other farm animals creates a lot of methane, a greenhouse gas far more powerful than carbon dioxide. Swapping one meat meal per week for beans or grains cuts your personal footprint. Plant-rich diets are not only better for the planet, they tend to be healthier for us too. More fiber, less cholesterol. A global move to plant-rich diets could cut food system emission by up to 70%. Making new plastic uses oil and gas, which adds greenhouse gases to the air. When we cut back on packaging and recycle more, we save fossil fuels and slow climate change. Every year, roughly 19 to 23 million tons of plastic end up in rivers, lakes, and oceans, choking marine life, damaging ecosystems, and even worsening climate impacts. Choose products with less packaging, use reusable bags and bottles, and recycle everything you can. Every piece of plastic you keep out of the bin helps protect wildlife and our planet's health. Rich countries and big companies have caused most of the warming, but poorer nations suffer the worst impacts. They need money to build the clean energy projects like wind and solar, strengthen flood defenses, and adapt agriculture to extreme weather. Wind, solar, and hydropower produce almost no greenhouse gases once built. More than 90% of the pollution-related deaths occur in low-income and middle-income countries. Experts say we need $1 to $2 trillion for vulnerable countries, cut emissions, and fight the climate change. Enough to keep global warming below that 1.5 degrees Celsius critical threshold. Without this funding, the developing nations cannot afford the clean technologies or resilience measures that they require. That makes the whole planet less safe because higher temperatures drive more extreme storms, droughts, and sea level rise that affect everyone. Our planet is sending us warning signals. We have seen the data, heard the stories, and explored the solutions. Climate change is not somebody else's problem, it's ours. And the solutions are in our hands. Every tree planted, every watt of clean energy, every plastic straw refused adds up. It starts with you, your daily choices, your voice, your vote. Switch to clean energy, demand better policies, protect our forests, and change our daily habits. Every choice counts. If we act together, we can turn the tide and leave a healthy world for our children. Ask yourself, what kind of world do you want to live in? And what do you want to leave for the future generations? If we all do our job, those small ripple effects might create a big wave. So I challenge you to share this video with your friends, family, or anyone that you might want to talk about and keep this conversation alive. See you in the next one.